everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm also going to be speaking to the recording, so thank you, Erin. So today we're going to be talking about crypto scams and a little bit more. Again, we're the Cybersecurity Community Outreach Organization from Florida State. I am Amelia Sieg. I'm the vice chair of our organization. These are a few of our other officers that you'll hear from later. Some more officers. And just a little bit about us before we get into the meat and potatoes of everything today. We're an organization, obviously, at Florida State. We all primarily study cybersecurity and computer science. We founded this organization about a year and a half ago. It started based off of an internship that we were doing outreach in the community. And now we've just kind of grown and expanded. We've done presentations at local high schools, senior centers, obviously like the library system. So we also are very active on our social media. We have a good following on there. So that's a good thing to keep an eye out for. Also, our newsletter is a good thing, and we'll plug that at the end as well. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what is cryptocurrency, how is it being used maliciously. We're going to talk about following the money, what is being done, and some safety tips and best practices for moving forward. So I just wanted to preface, this is not financial advice. It's kind of just an informational session, just a little bit about what everything is and how it's being used today. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a banker, so can't give you any financial advice. This is extremely important, especially in today's world where everything is digital. Cryptocurrency scams are becoming more and more convincing, more and more prevalent. They're kind of just all over these days. Scammers, unfortunately, are targeting people of all ages, but specifically the older demographic. It's just those that are unfamiliar with new technology, more willing to, again, click on something that they're unfamiliar with, or just follow something that they shouldn't be following. So this is just, again, super important to understand the basics and safety tips and how to move forward so you can spot those red flags and prevent anything from actually doing some damage. So this is a graph that shows the dollar value received by illicit addresses. This is from a company called Chainalysis. They're a leading cryptocurrency company in the nation. This is 2020 through 2024, and you can see I went backwards. And as you can see, it's just grown significantly. And I just want to point out something that's the dollar amount in billions of dollars. So 2024 is $51 billion of illicit money being moved around with cryptocurrency. So that's just shocking. So again, let's talk about the basics. Evolution of money. Here we are in the digital age. We now have digital currency. It started with Bitcoin is the very popular one that's talked about. But yeah, so this is the actual birth of digital currency. It started in 1996 with eGold being launched by Gold and Silver Reserve Incorporated. And that was the first kind of standard commercialized digital currency. In 2006, it processed more than $2 billion worth. And in 2009, it was plagued with criminal abuse and eventually shut down. So now we have the more typical Bitcoin that has actually shown growth, evolution, and more of a success story that started in 2009. And it was launched by an unknown person calling themselves Satoshi Nakamoto. And this is the first decentralized blockchain-based asset. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that blockchain means. And today, this is just kind of crazy. It's a roughly $2 trillion market cap, $64 billion daily volume of just Bitcoin. And there are numerous types of digital currency. Bitcoin is just one of them. So that's just kind of an eye-opening thing. This is, again, from Chainalysis, that leading crypto company that I talked about earlier. This is kind of the overall adoption. Again, you can see it's just grown rapidly. So all of that to say that cryptocurrency scams are extremely profitable. You've seen the numbers. You've seen the $1 billion worth of money that's being moved. So criminals are going to find that very attractive. And it's new. It's digital currency. We've never really dealt with anything like this in the history. And again, it arrived in the 90s, and now we have Bitcoin from 2009 and moving forward. And it's just growing rapidly. So let's talk about actually what is it? So what is cryptocurrency? It's a digital form of money that exists only online. So it's not actually a physical coin. It's not a physical dollar. It's all transactionally online. It uses advanced math called cryptography to secure these transactions. So that's like your encryption and decryption type of stuff. And it works without banks. It runs on this blockchain technology that, again, we're going to talk about in just a second. But that whole idea of working without a bank or a kind of financial institution, that leads you to the concept of decentralized finance. And that is what this all is. So there's nobody really controlling it. It's all on the blockchain and it's all public as well. So a little bit of pros and cons about the use of cryptocurrency. We have privacy and independence to an extent, because like I said, when everything is transactionally on the blockchain, it's a public ledger, if you will. It records all of the transactions, so you can actually go on and look up like the addresses of where the money's going, how much is being spent. So it's to an extent. We have financial inclusion. It's cheaper and faster cross-border. So on the other side of things, there's no protection if something goes wrong. This is such a novel concept, and there's no like real statutory, actually there is a statute, so we'll talk about that in a second, but there's just not really regulation. And again, with the newness of it all, it's extremely volatile. And here's the blockchain that I've been talking about. It's a shared digital record book, which is that digital ledger that I mentioned before. And so every transaction is grouped into a block linked to the previous one, forming that chain idea. And like I've said again before, once it's written, it's public and cannot be erased or changed. So this is kind of a visual of the blockchain, and it's that advanced math, cryptography stuff that's like super complicated. But this is just kind of a visual of what it actually looks like behind the scenes and at a deeper level. How cryptocurrency is made, like I said, it's not a physical thing. It's all kind of this foreign or digital concept that's kind of hard to understand. But these coins are actually mined and created by the computers solving these advanced math problems. So it's a really hard thing to wrap my head around, honestly, but it's all this advanced cryptography math stuff. There's not Bitcoins. There's cryptocurrency that's issued by companies or communities. You can also just make one if you wanted to. But at the end of the day, it's all just software. Like I said, the whole idea of all of this is that it's all just online and digital. This is an example of a phone farm. And, like I said before, this cryptocurrency is being mined by computers that are solving these advanced math problems. And that's going to take a really long time. And it's really hard to do for a computer to process and actually be successful with it. So people are actually like farming this cryptocurrency and just mining. So this is just kind of an example of what it looks like. So at the end of the day, it's not a physical thing. So where exactly does cryptocurrency get its value? It's whatever anybody thinks it's worth, to be honest. So it fluctuates constantly. You'll see it's like the stock market lines, and it's all just fluctuating. So it's literally whatever anybody thinks it's worth. This is an example of some categories or types of cryptocurrency that you'll hear of. We have meme coins, which is Dogecoin is like the biggest one. And like I said, this is what I was kind of referring to before. It's all fluctuating. It's all very volatile. It all changes constantly. This is another category called stable coins, which is another more popular one. We have Tether, which is the USDT. These are all coins that claim to be backed by an actual asset. So like $1 versus $1 USDT. Is that like comparable, right? It's like, so backed by an actual asset, it's actually tied to the dollar amount. And then we have wallets. So cryptocurrency wallets that will hold your actual cryptocurrency. It's just like the physical wallet that you obviously know of. But it has that unique digital address that's going to protect everything and keep things safe ideally. So that's what's used for the actual transactions to send and receive your funds to and from. These funds are kept safe using a private key, which is comparable to your ATM PIN or like a fingerprint or something. These are types of wallets. We have a hot and we have a cold. A hot one is just online on your phone. It's typically an app. That's obviously, I think, more popular. It's just easier. It's not as safe, but it's just easier. So it's obviously going to be more popular. The cold wallet is offline. It's safer, not as convenient, just because it's a physical, typically like a USB drive or something. And like I said, with each transaction, it goes with a wallet, and each wallet has addresses. And so that's kind of the cryptocurrency version of a bank account number or a routing number. It's just a long string of letters and numbers. Can be used for publishing or for sharing publicly to receive funds. And this is an example. So like I said, it's just a string of letters and numbers, and that's technically your address. So this is kind of an example of a wallet, and you can see transactions, the amount received. Just a little tidbit, BTC is the I don't know if you want to call it a code or something, but it's like the shortage for Bitcoin. So if you see that, that's what that means. An exchange. So this works like an online stock exchange. You connect your bank account or credit card to buy crypto and store it in a wallet. These are popular examples like Coinbase, Kraken, and Gemini. I think Coinbase is like the biggest one that I've heard of. So that's just something to keep an eye out for. These are how the crypto transactions are going to work. So you use your wallet just like you would with physical money. So you enter the amount that you want to send, the address that you want to send it to, and send it over the blockchain network. So that's going to go all on those cryptographic algorithms and everything. And then to verify it, like I said, it's sent to computers all around the world to check if it's a valid transaction. And then once verified, your transaction is placed permanently in a new block on the blockchain. So again, that's public and anybody can see that. This is an example of a transaction. Like I said, BTC means Bitcoin. So if you want to go ahead and try and send $20 in Bitcoin to said address, that's blocked off. We have the network. You're obviously sending Bitcoin, takes 45 seconds. And then you send now. That's funny. There's a network fee because you're sending it over the blockchain network, I guess. So all in all, cryptocurrency offers decentralized finance. That's that concept of, funding without a bank or a financial institution. It's all on the blockchain. So it's not regulated, and it's extremely volatile. It is built on that blockchain technology, kind of like a digital ledger or a record book. And the core components of cryptocurrency transactions include that wallet that's just like a physical wallet, an address that you're going to send or receive funds to and from, and then an exchange that kind of hosts everything. So now we're going to get into a little bit of the malicious use of cryptocurrency, that is. I think Matthew's going to talk about that.
Get right into it. Thank you. All righty. So, do you have any questions so far about anything that we went over?
I do.
Yeah.
So, what happens if there's a power outage and you can't turn your computer on anymore? Does that mean you can't spend money? I know you have generators and stuff, but what if there's a massive blackout? Then what happens to cryptocurrency?
So, if there is a power outage and systems go down, you may not be able to spend or retrieve your money, right? That's what you're saying? So, in this case, since it's decentralized, a lot of these are decentralized currency. So let's say even if the entirety of the United States' power were to go out for some reason, a massive cataclysmic event wiped out all power. Even if you're not able to access your funds, right? As long as, let's say, you have a cold wallet, you have a USB drive that has, I'm not going to get into the cryptography side of things here, but you have the address of your wallet. Because of the fact that this is a decentralized platform, even if the entire US's power were to go out, you still are sure that you still have that money somewhere, because everybody has agreed that you have made that transaction. You have put your money into this blockchain. That record is there. You have not withdrawn that money yet. That money is still associated with your cold wallet. And when the lights come back on, you'd be able to continue to spend that money. Until that point, if you're not able to access that, unless you have a generator or something, that money is inaccessible, right? So it's not, maybe a safe set of safe it's as safe as using any other digital currency. Because if power goes out, Wi-Fi goes out at your favorite food store, they may not be accepting cash at this time for whatever reason. I've had this experience many times where it's like, our systems are down. Sorry, come back later. At least at FSU, because sometimes they don't even accept cash. So, same sort of thing there. But at least if, let's say, all banks and everything, cataclysmic event, your money still exists because people globally says it does. Agreed that it does. Does that help answer your question? Kind of maybe answered two different questions.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But even more basic, if I got cryptocurrency and then got chicken and wanted dollars, would I be able to get dollars back?
Yes.
So
we'll go into
money by converting?
Yeah, we'll go into following the money. We're going to look into an attacker's point of view of how they're trying to get money back. But I think that'll also answer your questions, right? Simple answer though is through your exchange. You put money in through Coinbase or whatever platform, right? They take a small little fee. Just keep in mind of that. But you can just simply make the transaction on them, and you can get US dollars back out of your exchange.
How do they send the dollars over to you?
How do they? Because they have your information.
And where do you get the cash from the bank?
No. Well, they put the cash into your bank account because you've registered your bank account with Coinbase in this case.
You get bills.
Yeah.
Physical bills that go to Walmart and spend them.
Yeah. You can put your money into a decentralized currency and then take it back out through your exchange.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Sweet. So now let's talk about the malicious use. So getting right into the heart of the situation, and this was something that a few of us had questions about. Why do criminals use crypto, right? Well, inherently, as what I was just talking about, it is a decentralized currency, right? Meaning that there's no single body responsible for hosting and hosting these transactions, or responsible for these transactions, or like where the currency is located, right? Not even a government. It's globally. So it's going to be much harder to trace. It'll be quicker and easier for criminals to move around and transact, and we'll get into that when we get into following the money slides. And then in some cases, there's a lot more potential for higher gains. So we've spoke a lot about in the past romance and investment scams. So typically these are usually seen with online dating, with fake profiles. In our previous lecture, we went into a lot about different pig butchering scams as well, which are very devastating. Worth noting that they may not always be romance scams. It's just developing any sort of relationship. But eventually they all culminate in getting you to invest in some form of cryptocurrency. Important to note, though, is that on a lot of these pig butchering scams, these cryptocurrency might not even be real at all. These are on fake applications that the attackers, victimizing these people, they're influencing the entire user interface side of things to make it look like you're earning more money, and to make it look like, oh, I put in $5 and I just gained 600 off of that. They have complete control over to do that. They're oftentimes not even real exchanges or currencies at all. So that's entirely a possibility. But in some cases, they may actually put it into actual cryptocurrency. So we also have giveaway scams, where people will promise to give away large sums of cryptocurrency. You got a fun slide coming up for that one. And then they're going to impersonate public figures or celebrities, other high-profile people. And then these are usually they're just trying to get access to your crypto wallet. So in this case, we have Elon Musk claiming, I'm giving 10,000 BTC or Bitcoin, Bitcoin. It's not, anyway, to all community. I left the post of director of Tesla. Thank you all for your support. This is very difficult to read. I decided to make the difficult crypto giveaway in the world biggest. That was me. That was my bad. I decided to make the biggest crypto giveaway in the world for all my readers who use Bitcoin. Participate in the giveaway, SpaceX.plus. Here, can you go ahead and point out anything that may be a little bit wrong with this?
Yeah, the typo.
There's several. several typos and grammatical mistakes in this, but there may be also a few other things here. So if we look, we see that that's a fake username. Whenever you're communicating with anybody on social media, always pay attention to their actual username. We see at Path UK, Path UK. I don't know how to pronounce that, but that's not Elon Musk's username. Anybody can change their name to something like that. I don't know how they were able to. I think you can just pay for the blue check mark now on that platform, so they can look, verified. If you haven't been on the platform in a very long time, like me, I may be like, how did they get that blue check mark? That's a verified account. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Pay attention to the usernames. If those don't match up, there's something strange going on. So we also have, as we already discussed, that's very bad spelling, very bad grammar. And then always, always, always pay attention to links. SpaceX.plus is not it's not a very trusted link. Even if it looks trusted, because SpaceX.plus, maybe they bought that domain for some reason. Hover over it. First of all, whenever you are using a computer desktop, if you hover your cursor over a link, it'll explain where it's actually taking you to. That's one of the most important things you should be doing whenever you're using a mouse. On your phone, a lot harder to do that. I don't think you can. But verify that SpaceX.plus. You can just Google that website, make sure it's an actual thing that exists or that is trustworthy. So, getting into a little bit more on cybercrime, preferred method of payment for ransomware. All these cryptocurrencies are definitely one of the most preferred forms of payment. That's all we hear about nowadays is they just earned, this much Bitcoin off of a recent heist or scam, or, this much cryptocurrency here or there. You may have also heard as time has went on with malware, another new one, another very popular one that has come up is crypto miners, where it's why are my computer fans running all of the time? What's going on? And even colloquially, I'll sometimes do I have like a Bitcoin miner on my machine? Just from some friends here or there. So that's a very popular one, where they're actually trying to mine Bitcoin on your machine over time, which can be very computationally expensive. But if they've installed these crypto miners on several million people's computers, they may be earning a lot of money off of that. Very notably, this can be used by hostile countries to bypass sanctions, which has happened a ton. You absolutely look up anywhere on the news. You can see North Korea, Russia doing all sorts of, moving money around via these crypto exchanges. So here we have a very, very scary looking piece of ransomware here, Crypto Locker. So you have private key will be destroyed on this date. You have this much time left. Just for a little bit of knowledge on your private key, that's how you have access to your wallet's funds. And in this case, the private key is going to be destroyed. So you have a limited time in order to send 2 BTC Bitcoin, which is at this point a lot of money, to this address. So just immediately click off on this. In this case, this is a ransomware. There may be an actual issue with your computer. You really want to make sure that you just completely avoid this. Don't click the X. Take your computer to a professional. Something is very wrong with your computer. In this case, they could actually be encrypting all of your files on your machine, and unless you send them, that's what this is doing. Sorry. The private key used to encrypt all of your data on your machine is going to be destroyed. So they actually have the tool to decrypt all of your files on the machine, and unless you send them that much Bitcoin, all of your files and data will actually be lost, hence the Crypto Locker. So this is a very, very common form of ransomware recently. So getting started with Bitcoin, how helpful. Thank you. Here's another one for crypto miners. As you may remember, if I was talking about your computer fans revving up, we see that we have shell infrastructure host. I don't know what that is. That doesn't sound like a typical process running on my computer. But if we look all the way over on the right, we see my GPU has 100% activity right now. If you ever see that and you're not explicitly doing something to your knowledge, bring your computer to a qualified professional, because it is very likely that you may have some sort of malicious piece of software, such as a crypto miner, on your computer. So now let's go into a local example. Some of the people in the audience may have actually seen this exact scam before, but we're going to go over it once again. So in this case, this was a scammer who called a individual local here in Tallahassee. They claimed to be Haxon Morris of Bank of America. I think that section's actually later. In this case, they called the victim, giving them a cold call saying, hey, your assets are in trouble. Your money is in danger. We need to get your money to a safe location. And they were on the phone and they walked them through every step of the scam. So they told them exactly what the victim had to do in order to keep their money safe. Step one, go to your bank and withdraw $1,000, right? So as they go to their bank and they see what maybe an older individual walking up asking for $1,000 while on the phone. They ask the person, the bank teller asks the victim, hey, are you being scammed right now? And the person, the attacker on the phone tells them, just tell them I'm your nephew. And they follow the steps because they feel like this is a trusted person at this point. There's a lot of fear going on. They're not thinking clearly. They're just trying to protect their money. They're a victim in this case. So they tell the bank teller, I'm just on the phone with my nephew. I need to get my money out of the bank. So $1,000 pulled out. They tell them the exact location of a Bitstop ATM, a Bitcoin ATM local here in Tallahassee, of which there's a few. They tell them exactly how to get there, guiding them step by step all the way there. Once they're there, they walk in with a wad of cash into the convenience store. Immediately, the tellers at that gas station, they have to ask if they see an older individual walking in with a wad of cash, heading straight for the Bitcoin machine. Excuse me, are you being scammed? Once again, still on the phone with the attacker, just tell them I'm your nephew. And so they follow the steps and they walk over to this Bitcoin machine, deposit the money, and immediately the machine has several menus popping up. Are you being scammed right now? If you're being scammed, stop doing what you're doing. And the attacker knows every menu that pops up on these machines. So they just tell them, click next, click next, click next, click X, whatever buttons to press in order to send the money to, as we discussed before, their wallet address. And once that's done, bye-bye money. So they leave, they feel a little bit of reassurance that their money is safe, but then very soon after they realized, wait a minute, that might have been a scam. So what do? As any of us would do, we'd call our bank in order to report a fraud. So they call the bank. All of a sudden, and this is the new part, they get an answer back from the attacker again, posing as their bank's fraud department. And so, you may be wondering, they called their bank. They went out of their way to type in the number to their bank and try to report this fraud. And they guided them through. The attacker actually guided them through all of the same steps once again. Because at this point, you just lost a lot of money, you're not thinking straight, and you made the call yourself. This is obviously safe. They guided them through all the same steps again, this time with another $14,000. And so they lost a lot of money due to this attacker. And actually, it was found that very recently after this attack happened, there was discovered that there was a piece of malware you could get on Android devices that would redirect calls you made to your bank to any other specified phone number. So in this case, it may have been likely, or may not have been likely, but it could have been a possibility that this victim had installed during this attack a malicious app on their phone. So please be careful when installing anything online. So now let's go through and follow the money a little bit here, just to see how the money gets around, so you can understand the steps all along the way and maybe get to know where you can actually recover some of your money, if at all possible. So obviously with step one, first step of all of these scams, somebody becomes a victim here. A attacker contacts you and pretends to be of help, or offers you maybe even a big gain. As we've talked about a lot with pig butchering scams, there's a big potential for return here. Just put your money into this cryptocurrency here. They'll send you a link to a wallet, try to connect with you, send you to various exchanges, and then if you'll follow their instructions, believing it's all real and not just a scam this entire time. So then, okay, good. This is actually quite visible. So the money will actually leave your wallet. You send this crypto to the address that the scammer gave you, right? They punched in at those ATMs. They had to actually type in a valid address to actually send the money to. Just so you're aware, this graph here is not at all very, very interesting how the dollar amounts are quite similar to the story. Not at all related whatsoever. Just wanted to put that out there. But in this case, because in this graph, they sent $15,000, but via ATM fees, this was a ATM scam as well. ATM fees actually took $2,000 off the top in total. So there's actually in some cases, a very expensive fee associated with some of these transactions, because there's a lot of benefits to putting your money on the blockchain, as we've discussed before. But anyway, so it'll show up as sent. And then once it's sent, it's gone. It's part of the blockchain now. It's already out there, and the attacker has control over where that money goes. So we can see here on this graph that they've sent from the Bitcoin ATM. It gets transferred to a address, so a wallet address, and is stored there. And then what an attacker is actually going to do next is send it to another address. Why? This is so that they can hide the trail, ideally, to make it more difficult for law enforcement to track where these transactions are happening. A lot of these platforms, it's actually possible for you to follow step by step where these transactions are taking place, because it'll usually be on a public blockchain. Anybody can view transactions. It's not hard to do that. So, with that being said, as the attacker has moved their money to this address, then they're going to try to cash out eventually. But there's a few other techniques that attackers may actually employ. They can send their money to what they call mixers, where it'll actually invest your money into a bunch of different wallets and other things, and people have agreed, and this just makes it very difficult for law enforcement to track when your money gets spread all over one or even various blockchains. Attackers can do a lot of different techniques to make it incredibly difficult for law enforcement to track where the money is going. There's a lot of tools coming out and a lot of new research being done to help assist the tracking of where these transactions are going. So, with that being said, all during this time, you should be contacting anybody, local law enforcement, IC3, or what's the FDLE? You can also contact FDLE for Florida citizens in order to report this. And then at that time, you need to do that as soon as possible, because the money's going through, but until they convert it into an instant exchange and take the money out somewhere, you may still have a chance of actually getting the money frozen. And I'll explain what.
I also wanted to chime in, that tool, like that graphic that you're seeing is a tool, it's Chainalysis. And Chainalysis is where we got some of our data from in the beginning of the presentation, but that's the tool that law enforcement actively uses. Mm-hmm. So they'll go in and they'll freeze these accounts, they'll subpoena the exchange or the wallet, like Coinbase is the biggest one. Mm-hmm. And so they'll get access to all of those funds, and it freezes everything entirely. Like I said, everything is public. So law enforcement can literally just track where this money is going, and it's like a big web of transactions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's definitely worth noting. And I did forget to put that little citation in here, but this entire graph is by Chainalysis, who does absolutely great work. And this graph comes from their 2025 crime report, which was a fantastic deep dive that is definitely worth a read. So in this case, in order to cash out, attackers will try to exchange their cryptocurrency for ideally cash, stable coins, as is done in this case, or maybe even gift cards. Sometimes the money is frozen. In this case, the law enforcement was actually able to trace everything during these transactions and the money moving around and was able to freeze $4,000, and that's only $4,000 of the total scammed value, because that's only the money they were able to trace. Along this path, maybe it went through a mixer, maybe they already took out some of the money as it went through the instant exchange, sent it to other wallets, or transferred it into actual USD, right? There are a lot of different techniques, but as they were able to actually determine that this $4,000 stored at least this wallet address was the victim's, they were able to contact Tether, which is actually a centralized authority that manages that stable coin. And since it's a centralized authority, they are self-regulated. So they're able to say, okay, we do not allow this level of fraud and scamming on our platform. So law enforcement provided sufficient evidence of what's going on using the tool chain analysis, provided that to Tether, and Tether found that address and froze the money. They cannot do anything with it. And now it's up to law enforcement and Tether to communicate to try to get that money back to the victim. So that's a little bit about how you can actually hopefully recover some of your money. And right now it's a little bit of a battle between law enforcement and attackers to try to, outpace each other with tracing and disguising their trails for cryptocurrency. Because the longer it takes law enforcement, the more money they can get out of the system and into their wallets.
Sorry, I want to chime in again. I also recently heard, this is like a newer thing, but if law enforcement is able to successfully get those funds from an illicit address or wallet or whatever, and let's say the victim only lost $2,000 in that wallet, and there's more than $2,000 in that wallet, law enforcement is allowed to seize all of it. So even if there's one bad transaction, you can take all of it, not just however much money that victim lost. You can seize the whole thing. Okay, so that's definitely worth noting. If there's a trail of malicious transactions going along, they can freeze all of the value in that wallet, not just the amount that was stolen. Which, in my opinion, definitely makes sense because it's a wallet address. They'd have to freeze the entire wallet, right? So. And if it's one bad transaction, it's a bad wallet. So.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, that's probably part of the reason why there's a little bit of discourse between, Tether and law enforcement. They want to make sure that that wallet address is owned by a malicious person, right? So, with that being said, so in summary, criminals will definitely, for various reasons, like to use cryptocurrency due to all of the privacy features, mixers or other tools, in order to disguise who's actually responsible for making these transactions and moving this money around. And there's a lot of very common scams, investment scams primarily, because there's a lot of buzz around investing in crypto recently. And it is even happening here, which is crazy. It's happening absolutely everywhere. So now with that being said, we're actually going to have Daniel come on up and show us a little bit about a few other scams and questions you may have, not explicitly related to crypto.
Yeah, of course. I can take this. Yeah, I just wanted to briefly cover a few things just outside of crypto of attacks that happen and how they kind of work. Just a few really quick questions more generally. First of all is why phishing is so common. Why are there so many phishing scams? And it's mostly three reasons. First of all, it's very easy. It's cheap. And there's a very good chance that you get a large payout. In the example that Matt brilliantly analyzed earlier, it was $15,000. Yeah, $15,000 just with one phone call. If you told anyone that they could make $15,000 with one phone call, most people would take the opportunity, provided that there was no ethical or moral obligations. But there aren't. Most of these attacks are much easier than really advanced cybersecurity attacks, and so it's very easy for unskilled attackers to run. All you need to know is the language, and then it's very cheap to run. It's all it takes is phone calls or running a website or anything like that. So that's why there's so many of them. The other thing to keep in mind is that malicious ads are very, very common. This is actually one of the main vectors of attack besides cold calling, cold emailing. This is technically cold contact via just an advertisement, because just anybody can get an advertisement. I can buy an advertisement right now whose sole purpose is to collect your information. I can make it say whatever I want, and there was no auditing. Just basically no ads get taken down from Google or anybody who sells ad space unless it's reported by users. So there's very frequently, most ad space is good. Most people buy ad space with a genuine purpose, but a lot of ad space, especially on less reputable websites, can have a lot of ads that look exactly like this, who are masquerading as download links. Typically, if you're looking for like a piece of software or something, you might see an ad like this that is pretending to be a download button, but is actually just to download their extension. Probably not a reputable extension either. That's a very easy way to get malware on your web browser. It can also just steal information like any other stuff. The other thing to look out for is cloning websites. This is extremely easy. Generally speaking, it's a red flag if a website doesn't look right or something's weird about it. That is a red flag, but it's impossible to tell one website visually from another. This is a good example. It is literally impossible to tell whether this is real PayPal or not. The only differentiator would be the URL. This is not PayPal. This did not come from PayPal.com. This came from a phishing site that I currently run. Don't worry, it doesn't collect like information. It's just for testing stuff. But it's a good example of a website that is literally visually identical to the PayPal login, but I can do whatever I want with the email and password to it. It does not go to PayPal, which means, of course, that the only way to truly verify a website is via URL. I can actually quickly show off this. So this is the fake website that I have running. The URL is very hard to see, but this is my own URL. And of course, if you try to log in to something here, it will error out because I don't have that set up. But this is the real PayPal, and this is the fake PayPal. They're effectively identical. So I just want to show that. And this is a really my favorite website for malicious ads. There's a ton of them. You can already see that it's trying to get me to download all sorts of stuff. This is probably a real Google Workspace ad, but it could totally be something malicious. Click here to continue. This is not what I'm looking for. Download, install free. It doesn't even tell me what I'm downloading, but if I click on it, it'll probably get me to download something. Yeah, so it's immediately trying to tell me like, oh, you just download this thing and get a web browser. Certainly less than reputable, and something to watch out for is that not all ads are perfectly trustworthy. All right, so moving on back to our crypto programming. We can talk about what is being done.
To our crypto program.
Yeah.
All righty. So, with all of this talk about crypto scams and other malicious phishing scams and ad space and other things like that, what is actually being done to stop this from happening? So, recently, the FBI and Secret Service launched a new effort called Operation Level Up in order to identify any victims of cryptocurrency investment fraud, which there is a lot of. If you attended our previous lecture, once again, I highly recommend you go look at that. It's on our YouTube channel, where you'll see that there's a ton of victims being discovered. So thankfully to this Operation Level Up, a lot more victims have been notified, have been identified, and actual transactions have been able to be recovered through their efforts. So there's definitely good things happening there. And on one of our previous slides here, we spoke a little bit about ATM fraud. So recently, as of February 2025, there's a bill introduced, and there's a ton of these out there. There's actually a lot being done as far as law enforcement goes for cryptocurrencies, pig butchering, and other phishing scams of that nature. But in this case, this one actually is dedicated to crypto ATM operators have to post more warnings now. They're actually regulated and have to do that. And they have to name a compliance officer. They have to have somebody who is responsible for making sure that ATM machine is giving the proper warnings to individuals. So maybe a warning saying, if you're on the phone with somebody telling you that they're your nephew, you should leave the building and hang up immediately. So there's actual refunds for fraud, verbal confirmation over $500, and operators registered with the Treasury include receipts, transactions, hashes, and contacts. So a lot more information being given to law enforcement on these actual ATMs. So good things happening there. elsewhere in the world, thanks to Interpol's effort, featured them in the previous slide set as well. For crypto specifically, we have Operation Serengeti. This is, well, maybe not specifically cryptocurrency, but in this case, to disrupt cybercrime networks across Africa. There's actually been thousands of arrests, tens of thousands of victims, and specifically, we see a bunch of messages being exchanged, a devastating amount of monetary value lost in US dollars in Africa. But it looks like Interpol was able to recover a lot of that money back. Maybe not a lot of money, but that's actually a pretty significant percentage from a lot of the other percentages we've seen throughout our presentations. So there's a lot of effort being done in order to stop scammers across the globe. But just as there's, so good things are happening. But what can we do as people? And this is, in my opinion, one of the most important things, is what can I do in order to stay safe online? So, number one is to pause and breathe and take a moment. When you receive that phone call that all of your assets are in danger, that can be an incredibly scary thing that happens. And the most important thing to do is to just take a breath and think and try to think clearly if you can. And when you stop and think, you'll be in a much clearer space to assess the situation, assess what's at stake, assess the timetables, assess everything that you need to. Number two, ask somebody you trust. If you find yourself in this situation that a lot of your assets are actually in trouble, or that somebody has sent you a message, or that a malicious piece of software pop-up has arrived on your machine, ask somebody you trust. Talk to a friend, family member, or other trusted advisor before you spend your money or invest in anything. If you've been the subject of a scam, if you are a known victim of a scam, absolutely tell a family member, and very importantly, you should report that. Another important thing is to use trusted sources. A member of our audience actually spoke about making calls themselves to their bank or to the departments that they trust, rather than relying on calls from them or emails from them. Always verify URLs in order to make sure that they are authentic. Stick to what you know is authentic and avoid going out and visiting maybe some lesser known sites in order to make a quick dollar. So always make sure to be looking out for red flags. We saw in the Elon Musk crypto scam, obviously not done by Elon Musk himself, but there's a few different patterns where we'll see, risk-free giving away this much cryptocurrency with bad grammar and an unfamiliar website URL. All the telltale signs that I should immediately avoid whatever this person is talking about. Funny enough, I actually fell victim to one of these. I didn't lose any money, but I did have to sit through an hour of SpaceX rocket launch nonsense that was not real at all, because I was very excited for a SpaceX rocket launch a few years back. And when I sat down and sat there, for about an hour doing things on my phone, waiting for the launch to appear, all of a sudden, a very bad, digitally modified Elon Musk walks out with a horrible voice modulation. It's a lot better now, and it's a lot scarier now. But back then, it was just, I was like, oh no, they got me, as he's pitching a new cryptocurrency on the big whiteboard. And I'm like, where's the launch? And I look at the YouTube profile, and it is not SpaceX at all. So I was not paying attention to those red flags, but you absolutely can and should. So this is another very important thing. We mentioned a lot of statistics in this and other slides. The way those statistics actually happen is through reports. All of those numbers are likely drastic underestimates of the amount of money that's actually being stolen, because a lot of us may feel embarrassed that we were the victim of these crimes. That's entirely fair, but just know that there's a lot of value and that you don't have to feel embarrassed. Millions of people around the globe are actually being scammed at this very second, and they may not even know it. So if you do find yourself to be the victim, if you report it, you're contributing numbers in order to allow law enforcement to respond to, raise awareness, and maybe more regulations will actually come out on these things to help keep us safe. So highly recommend IC3 from the FBI, the FTC, or local law enforcement. Here in Tallahassee, the Leon County Sheriff's Department, FDLE, you know, all sorts of others. So how can you learn more? If you look at on all of your desks right now, you'll actually see that we have a wonderful little brochure that will be coming out also digitally on our newsletter. So I highly recommend you head over to our website and subscribe to that so you can get your hands on these awesome brochures made by Aaron Hoffman. Very good at this. So as a reminder, this is the end of the presentation, but next Sunday, we'll be having a very fun hands-on workshop where you may be able to get your hands-on interacting with some of these phishing AI chatbots, which is going to be very fun. And I hope you'll be able to, through that, recognize some of the signs that this person I'm speaking to might not actually be a legitimate person. So I highly recommend you come join us for that.